One of my friends on Facebook tagged me in a post earlier today while I was at work about this activist by the name of Rakem Balogun. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Where he was put in jail for his Facebook post and basically came out and said that there was a secret FBI surveillance that was put on him. Now, this doesn't or should not come as a surprise to many black people in the establishment because for decades, black people, when they speak out on certain issues, have been put under a microscope, if you will, when it comes to the things that they say. Think about a lot of the black power movements of the 60s and 70s that got destroyed and dismantled because the FBI, for example, kept a close eye on them. Black Panther Party is a perfect example. Move from Philadelphia is another example. And I'm very sure there are many others. Just like when Darren Seals, he spoke out and was very heavily outspoken, and then he ends up in a burning car with a bullet in his head. And then they try to say it was a suicide. No. And the thing is, a lot of people can say a lot of things, but all you have to do is say that one triggering thing, and it's a wrap for you. So, and as I was, I'm just gonna go ahead and read this article, and hopefully, there's one point in there that I saw when I was reading another article about this same topic earlier today. Hopefully, is mentioned in here. It says Rakem Balogun spoke out against police brutality. Now he is believed to be the first prosecuted under a secretive U.S. effort to track so-called black identity extremists. There goes that term again. And that came up a few months ago, and we were just sitting back like they just had to find a way to criminalize black people who spoke out on various issues affecting them. Rakem Balogun thought he was dreaming when armed agents in tactical gear stormed his apartment. Startled awake by a large crash and officers screaming commands, he soon realized his nightmare was real, and he and his 15-year-old son were forced outside of their Dallas home wearing only underwear. When I read that part right there, it reminded me immediately of Fred Hampton when he was in his home laying next to his wife and their child, and he got killed right there in the bed while he was sleeping, and he was in his underwear. Now the only difference is Fred Hampton was killed. This man and his son were not, luckily. But let me get back to the story. Handcuffed and shaking in the cold wind, Balogun thought a misunderstanding must have led the FBI to his door on December 12, 2017. The father of three said he was shocked to later learn that agents investigating quote-unquote domestic terrorism had been monitoring him for years and were arresting him that day in part because of his Facebook post criticizing police. It's tyranny at its finest, said Balogun, age 34. I have not been doing anything illegal for them to have surveillance on me. I have not hurt anyone or threatened anyone. Excuse me. Balogun spoke to The Guardian this week in his first interview since he was released from prison after 5 months locked up and denied bail while U.S. attorneys tried and failed to prosecute him, accusing him of being a threat to law enforcement and an illegal gun owner. Well, I'm glad he was able to beat his case. That and the fact that he was able to walk away from this showed they had no case against him. They just locked him up because he said some things that hurt their feelings. Excuse me. Balogun, who lost his home and more while incarcerated, is believed to be the first person targeted and prosecuted under a secretive U.S. surveillance effort to track so-called black identity extremists. An elite August 2017 report from the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Analyst Unit, officials claim that there had been a resurgence in ideologically motivated violent criminals activity stemming from African Americans' perception of police brutality. The counterterrorism assessment provided minimal data or evidence of threats against police, but discussed a few isolated incidents, notably the case of Micah Johnson, who killed 5 officers in Texas. The report sparked backlash from civil rights groups and some Democrats who feared the government would use the broad designation to prosecute activists and groups like Black Lives Matter. Balogun, who was working full-time for an IT company when he was arrested, has long been an activist, co-founding the Guerrilla Mainframe and the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, 2 groups fighting police brutality and advocating for the rights of black gun owners. Some of the work included coordinating meals for the homeless, youth picnics, and self-defense classes, but that's not what interested the FBI. Investigators began monitoring Balogun, whose legal name is Christopher Daniels, after he participated in an Austin, Texas rally in March 2015, protesting against law enforcement. Special Agent Aaron Keeley testified in court. The FBI, Keeley said, learned of the protest from a video on InfoWars, a far-right site run by commentator Alex Jones, known for spreading false news and conspiracy theories. The reference to InfoWars stunned Balogun. They're using a conspiracy theorist video as a reason to justify their tyranny. That is a big insult. Keeley made no mention of Balogun's specific actions at the rally, but noted the marchers' anti-police statements such as "oink oink bang bang" and "the only good pig is a dead pig." The agent also mentioned Balogun's Facebook post calling a murder suspect and a police death officer a hero and expressing solidarity with the man who killed officers in Texas when he posted "they deserve what they got." Keeley, however, later admitted the FBI had no evidence of Balogun making any specific threats about harming police. At the time of his Facebook post, Balogun said he was angry and venting about the high-profile cases of police killing innocent black men and women in America, including Alton Sterling and Philando Castile. He was particularly disgusted with the way the media and law enforcement officials portrayed the killings as justified, and said that when he wrote those posts, I just mimicked their reactions to our killings. In a letter, Balogun wrote to the Guardian from jail, and he said he felt he had been abducted by the FBI, a prisoner of war on free speech and the right to bear arms. Authorities were targeting him for promoting black-led community groups and fighting government abuse. He wrote, adding he was never a threat to anyone. Violence is the method of our oppressor. Our method is hard work, love, and unity. When he was arrested, police confiscated his .38 caliber handgun and an unloaded AK-style assault rifle, and also, he said, took his book Negroes with Guns by the civil rights leader Robert F. Williams. They were really desperate, Balogun said. This is pretty much like Stalin in 1950. You show me the man, I show you the crime. The prosecution's case eventually unraveled, but in the process so did Balogun's life. The government-owned crime data has largely undermined the notion of a growing threat from a black identity extremist or BIE movement, a term invented by law enforcement. In addition to an overall decline in police deaths, most individuals who shoot and kill officers are white men and white supremacists, have been responsible for nearly 75% of deadly extremist attacks since 2001. Just dwell on what I just read there. I'm actually glad they put this in the article because I was reading quite a bit and I didn't know if it was going to pop up or not, but I'm glad that it's there. But they'll continue to overlook it. The BIE surveillance and failed prosecution of Balogun, first reported by Foreign Policy, have drawn comparisons to the government's discredited efforts to monitor and disrupt activists during the civil rights movement, particularly the FBI counterintelligence program called COINTELPRO, which targeted Martin Luther King Jr., the NAACP, and the Black Panther Party. Michael German, a former FBI agent and fellow with the Brennan Center for Justice, Liberty, and National Security Program, said the BIE assessment was extraordinarily overboard and that the concept was spreading to law enforcement agencies across the U.S. as more black activists were facing surveillance and police harassment. Authorities have not publicly labeled Balogun a BIE, but their language in court resembled the warnings in the FBI's file. German said the case also appeared to utilize a disruption strategy, in which the FBI targets lower-level arrests and charges to interfere with suspects' lives as the agency struggles to build terrorism cases. Sometimes when you couldn't prove somebody was a terrorist, it's because they weren't a terrorist, he said, adding that the prosecutor's argument that Balogun was too dangerous to be released on bail was astonishing. It seems this effort was designed to punish him for his political activity rather than actually solve any sort of security issue. The official one-count indictment against Balogun was illegal firearm possession, with prosecutors alleging he was prohibited from owning a gun due to a 2007 misdemeanor domestic assault case in Tennessee. But this month, a judge rejected the charge, saying the firearms law did not apply. The U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI declined to comment. For Balogun, who said that the Tennessee case stemmed from a dispute with a girlfriend and that he was pressured to plead guilty to get out of jail, the decision felt like a victory. But since his release 1 week ago, Balogun has also been forced to confront the harsh reality of life post-incarceration. He lost his vehicle, his job, and his home. His son was forced to move and transfer schools, and Balogun missed much of the first year of his newborn daughter's life. This has been a nightmare for my entire family, he said, adding that he was still recovering from the monotony and isolation of incarceration. It was like living like a dog confined to a small backyard. Balogun said he also had to accept the fact that the government would probably continue to monitor him and could seek new ways to disrupt his life. But the threat wouldn't stop him from organizing and speaking out, he added. As long as my community needs me to serve them, I will be there. Wow. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A full story and a little bit of background on this guy and why they pretty much went after him. And they knew they didn't have a case, but they were banking that they did. And I like that he put at the end that even though this part is over, so much had got taken away from him. Like, he pretty much lost his livelihood, his income, and his son had to transfer schools, and he lost out on his daughter being born. If they don't come after him ever again after this, then they would have succeeded in what they really wanted. And that was him losing out on the most precious thing that you can never get back, and that's time. So that shows you right there that they are watching and they are lurking. Shoot, they could probably be watching these comments that flow in under my videos right now, for all I know. So, but you know, it's no surprise there, especially with advanced technology. It's not even remotely as hard for them to do something like this. If they could have done that back then in the 60s with and 50s with Dr. King, then them doing this with him is a piece of cake, especially with all the added technology. We live in the information age, so this is doing something like this is not going to be hard. This is a walk in the park for them. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. I will talk to you in the next one.